Welcome back to my online video tutorial series. At the end of this video, you should know how to quickly draw a CSEC past paper floor plan using AutoCAD Architecture. For this particular floor plan, I'll be using a slightly different technique. I will be creating a series of rectangles. All right, so this is the AutoCAD user interface pretty much. So I'm gonna click here to start a new drawing. Click drawing. So click big application A, and I will be using AEC model metric, this template. Open. So here we are in the AutoCAD user interface. So the first thing I want to do is to remove my grid and set up my limits. So my limit, LIM, enter. For building drawing, I want a limit of approximately 10,000 by 10,000 for the drawing. So the lower limit is always 0,0, enter. Upper limit is 10,000, 10,000, enter. Bring that limit onto the screen, I will type Z, enter, A, enter. Okay. Now that I have established my limits, my next step is to set up a couple layers. I will not be going through all the details as I have done several videos on how to set up layers. So in AutoCAD Architecture, I could click here, then the new layer. For this one, I want this one to be wall, WL wall, and I'm going to use white. Wall thickness, I want this to be about 0.7. 0.7 or 0.6 is good. Okay. I'm going to set up one more layer for my line work. And for this, let it be peach. Okay. To bring back my layer property, I could type LA, enter. That brings up the layer property. And again, I'm going to add a couple more layers. One more layer for my dimension. And for this, I'm going to use 0.25 LA, enter. And the color of this, let this be that color. So the first thing is to activate my dimension, my line layer. I want this line layer thickness to be 0.25 as well. Okay. And I click 2 times here to activate this. Then I exit off. So this is now active. Now, my next step, well, I just set up my limits and I bring that limit onto the screen. So my next step is to import the drawing that I have. So to do that, I hit Control V to bring the drawing that I paste into this existing drawing. So this is the floor plan that I'll try to reproduce. This is the floor plan. I think this is probably 2014 to 2015 or 2016 CSEC past paper question. So I notice here that the measurements are pretty much on center. So I'll be drawing a series of rectangle here to represent each of these. So I'll be drawing a rectangle for this section, a rectangle for this section, one for here, etc., etc. So I'll be using line to create a grid pattern. Then after that grid pattern, I'll be using my wall layer to quickly draw the wall outline. Then insert my doors and windows. So it's important to establish something that between each of these wall is a line width thickness. Yeah, I need to explain that in a little details. Line width. So this is a typical wall, right? I will be using center justification. And in a little bit, I will explain that in a little more details. If you have watched the video before this, you should know what I'm talking about. So the justification is basically where the measurement is taken from. In AutoCAD architecture, we have three types of justifications. We have left justification. That is when measurements are taken from the left-hand side of the wall. We have center justification. With center justification, measurement is taken from the center of the wall. With right justification, measurements are taken from the left and from the right-hand side of the wall. So those are some very important things that we need to be mindful of. In a case where we have center justification, take for example, if you want internal from wall to wall measurements of 3,000, we would need to add half the wall thickness, well, full wall thickness, as from here. So from here, the wall is typically 150, center to center, wall to wall. If wall to wall is 3,000, and the measurement is taken from center, it means therefore from this center line, from that center wall to the center of this wall is 3,150. 3,150. So it is important to establish this from very early, as half of the wall thickness from here is 750. 75, sorry, and from here to there is 75. So when we are using center to center justification and we want inside wall to inside wall measurement, we must add the wall thickness to the dimension that we're given. It's also important to know that it depends on how the object is dimensioned. Yes, so those are factors that must be considered. I hope I'm making some sense here. Let's get into this drawing. Oh, so okay, so based on what we have here, the staff room is 3,000 by 2,500. So for that, I'm going to activate rectangle. Let's bring this out of the way. Rectangle, REC, enter. REC, enter. Specify the first point. And to establish my horizontal distance is 3,000. No, I must enter the at key first. 3,150. Then press the tab key to change from the X to the Y value. And this is 1,500 plus 150. That gives us 2,650. So that's our first section. The next section is the bathroom. So we hit spacebar to reactivate, and the bathroom starts here. Here, and I'm gonna type, so we add 150 to 1500, we get, first I must enter my add key, 1650 for the X, and for the Y, I'm gonna enter minus 1650. And why did I use a negative value? I use a negative value because angles are measured. So here we have X positive, X negative. So because I started here in this direction, Y is positive. Down here in this direction, Y is negative. Y is negative. So I started here, which would be my origin here. My at point is here, and I went down, which means that the value of this is negative. So I entered negative 1650. All right. Let us continue. So we have generated that. Our next step is to draw the office space, and this office is 3000 by 3000. So for that, I click rectangle, type REC for rectangle, enter. I then, my first point, which is here, I then use my add key, shift, at, I then enter 3000, 3150, use comma to change from X to Y. And in this case, I'm using a minus value, minus 3150. We have that. Now, what we want in the next section is our waiting area. The waiting area has a dimension of 4000 by 4000. So again, I hit space bar to reactivate my rectangle. My start point, which is here. And again, I must place the @ sign before I enter the value. It's very important. This is very important for AutoCAD architecture. With standard AutoCAD, you could go ahead and enter the value using dynamic function, but for AutoCAD architecture, you must enter the @ sign. All right. So for that, I hold on the shift key, press the @ then I 4150. I press the tab key or comma to change from the X to the Y value. 4150, enter. So I did not place the minus sign in front this, so it went up instead of down. So what I'm going to do is to mirror this or move this down. I could mirror MI, enter. Here as the base point, there as the base point. So I get, and here I want to erase the source. Yes, I want to erase the source. So I pretty much bring this down here. So when you're doing this, you have to be mindful. This requires an appreciation of maths and your positive and negative Y value. So we have generated this. Our next step is to generate the section here, the courtyard. And the courtyard is 3750 by 2160. So we type REC, rectangle, enter. Specify our starting point, which is here. And we go 3700 plus 150 is 3850. Oh, before that, I must enter the @ sign first. Shift @ remember, we can't afford to forget our @ sign. Yeah, very important. Then tab. Let me start that over again. REC, enter. Specify here as a start point. Enter our @ sign first. Then 3,800 use comma or tab key. Then we enter a height of 2,160 plus our wall thickness of 150. That gives us 2,310. And we have that here. So our next move now is to draw this rectangle here. This one is 3,000 by 3,700 as the same. This is the same wall that goes all the way up. So again, we hit space bar to reactivate rectangle. We click here, and we need to be mindful of the direction. In this case, X here is my start point. So X is negative. So I first engage my @ sign, and X has a negative value as it's moving left here, left of my start point, minus, and this is 3,800, and tab key to change from X to Y, and the Y value is 3,150. And we have that. Now, from what I've seen here, this extends up to that section here. So I'm going to use a line to draw a line from here, engage orthogonal mode, and I use trim, PR, enter, twice, enter, enter, trim that off, escape. So we pretty much have that right there. Our next move is to draw this bathroom here, this bathroom, which starts at this point. It starts here. It starts here. And it is 1,500 by 1,500, pretty much. All right, so I'm gonna type REC for rectangle, enter. Specify here as my start point, which would correspond with this point here. So I left click here, then I enter my @ sign, hold down the shift key, press @ sign, then I enter my X value, which is 1,650. Tab key to change from the X value to Y, and it's the same value, 1,650. And we have that. Our next step is to trim out this little section here, to trim here. So we go PR, enter, enter. Click here to trim that out. And that is pretty much that for that. Now, you would realize that there's a cutout here as well. There's a cutout here. They did not give us any dimension for that. In cases like those, you're expected to use your discretion. Now, if from here to here is 150, is 1,500, sorry, it means therefore that here seems to be about 700. This distance here seems to be about 700, and here is approximately 700. Or we could use the door, the dimension for the door, and subtract it from that. But for this, I will be using 700, as this seems to be less than half the distance there, or probably 800. So I'm gonna use line L, and starting from here, I'm tracking this point, and I type let's do 750, 750, enter. That gives me the first point, and then I trim out the excess, ER, enter 2 times, here, click here, and I click and drag, that goes. So now we basically have that. So this is basically the outline for a quick outline for the floor plan. Now, once we have this, we can quickly generate our wall. I notice here that there's a little piece of wall protruding from the window. So I could draw that now, or let that stay for later. Once we have the outline, our next step is to quickly generate a wall. So for that, I can activate wall by one of two methods. I could click onto the wall command here, and once that is done, it will give me an opportunity to modify my wall. All right. So here, I would then select the thickness of the wall. In this case, the previous value that I have entered is still there. So I'm using 150 millimeters wall. I'm using a base height of 2,700, which is consistent with 9 feet. The base height is the distance from the finished floor to the ceiling, right? So that's pretty much that for that. So this is good. I won't be changing anything. I let that stay as is. All right. So my next step is to start drawing my walls. Right. So let's minimize this. Click here to minimize that. And let us remove this. Let us remove that from there for now. All right. So for that, I will start drawing my walls. So I click here. So currently, my center justification is active. All right. So it's important that it's on center justification. I forget to show you a little bit about that, but you would have known a little bit about that from my previous video. It is important to know that object snap endpoint normally is generated at the point where the justification is. If this was the left justification, that would have been the box would have formed or at the left hand side of this line. So say for example here, you notice that endpoint box, it stops at the middle because this is center justification. If this was left justification, it would have popped up here on the left hand side of the wall. In like manner, if it was to the right of the right justification, it would have popped up on the right hand side here. So it's important to be mindful of that. Remember, when you're drawing wall, we always start from the justification point. So wherever this is, if it is center, you must start drawing your line from the center. Your start point should be from the center, all right? Very important. So I go ahead, draw my wall there. Click center to center, escape. And I hit, sorry, space bar to reactivate line. I click ensure that I click onto the center. Left click, go to center, enter. Click there, go to that, enter. I could click this, drag the end, this end down to the end right there, enter. Remember, you should always stretch from box to box or from end point to end point. Very important. All right, so this is that. This should be done some more. Space bar to reactivate line. Click here, click there, enter. Space bar to reactivate. Click there. click there, enter. And that's basically it. So that's how we generate our floor plan really, really quick. Now we could move our floor plan from there to a separate location. So for that, I'm going to click on one wall. Then, so I click onto the wall, then I right click and I go down to select similar. And it will select all the walls that are similar. I then type remove, so for my base point, and I drag it across to a different location. Escape. So now I have my floor plan here. Yeah, just like that. So my next step now would be to add my fixtures or dimension to this. Yeah. So I'm going to show you how to quickly set up a dimension. Well, in AutoCAD Architecture, quickly. So D for dimension, enter. I normally use standard. I'm gonna create a new one, continue. So of course you should know how to do this. We have done this before. And line and symbols, I'm gonna change extend beyond dimension line to 100. This to 300, 300. Arrow size, I choose forward tick. I will not be spending much time on this as I have done several videos on this already. I will then choose one, let this be arrow size 120, 120. Text, let this be 150, 150. Primary unit, set for precision 0. Okay. So I'm going really, really fast here, guys, as I have done this before. Okay. I normally draw using 1-to-1 scale, but I didn't change that. Hopefully that doesn't affect anything. All right, so this is pretty much my drawing. Now I'm gonna change my dimension layer. And I want to choose a different color for my dimension layer. So I'm gonna change that. Okay. All right. So let us change our dimension layer from white to some other color, probably this color. Okay. Sorry. So now I'm gonna go to annotation, click linear. I click here, I click there, I click that. And I'm gonna click on this one, continuous, to get that and that. Then escape. I then hit space bar. No, well, not space bar, but I want to overall dimension for that. And we have that. Hit space bar to reactivate. I then click the first one. And it's important to realize the sequence when you're selecting the first one, if you intend to use continuous dimension. Okay, so we click here first, second point. So the pattern will continue in the same direction. If I started here first and then click the second, the pattern will continue up. So it is important to click to start at the end and work into the direction that you want. Okay, so we click here, then click that point, click here, zoom in a little bit, click there. Please don't tell me the software is freezing. This is not happening. Oh. Uh-oh. Software stopped working. Software stopped working.